The iPhone 5 SE in 2022. Is it still viable? Is it too outdated, or is it still an interesting workpiece? I'll tell you my ideas about this pretty very old, many years old version of the iPhone. It feels very small in the hand compared to today's models of, like the Pro Maxes and Pro 12 Max and 13 Max and 14 Max. It's pretty small. It has a very flush both front and back side. As you can see, the camera is completely flush, so it's very easy to clean. It's a very nice design that is inspired by also the new current models. They look very much the same. So if you like the new 12 and 13 models, you're gonna also like this one because it's so timeless, and the sides and the front and back are just very clean and futuristic. So I think the design is still very recent. It feels small in the hand, this 5 SE model. Compared to the new ones, it's very, for my big hands, I have big hands, it's very difficult to do long typing sessions and browsing a lot. For that, maybe it's not so usable as your only phone, unless you're really used to very small phones. But on the positive side, the software is still up to date. Apple still supports them. And as you can see, if I go to the battery, if I click on battery health, this one still has 88% of its battery life remaining. So my advice would be, if you buy second-hand an old iPhone, then ask the seller what it states in battery and then battery health. And this one has 88%, and try to get something above 70%, and you still will have a big chunk of charge left. And that will also tell you something about how much the phone already has been used, and so it will give you some indication of the wear and tear that the phone itself. Of course, the battery can be replaced, but it's not really viable for such an old phone. And there are several uses that I still think this is very interesting for 2022. And one of them is to have as your reserve phone, in case you go canoeing or fishing and your main phone falls in the water, and you always have for your work, you have something reserved to immediately, that you trust that everything is set up, and you just have to dial and people trust you because that's your reserved second number in case something happens to your first phone. People will not ask, who the hell is this phone number, and you are trusted because you already have given out to your trusted spouse and wife and kids, or a family, that they know your second number. So that's my first suggestion, to use an old cheap phone such as this one as your reserve phone. Then another suggestion is, if you have your own company or you work at a company and you want to separate work related stuff and private stuff, you can use, and these days very cheap to get your own SIM phone number, and you can put it in, and you that way separate the two and have your personal stuff on one phone and then your business on the other, depending on which one you use most. And then there is another suggestion I have, is these days the webcams are very expensive and the quality of webcams is pretty low. And I would suggest using an old phone, for example, an iPhone or another Android phone with a very good camera, and use that as your separate, and then you can use the main phone and put it on a stand. These days there's very cheap foldable small tabletop stands which has a grip that holds the phone, and then you can use the main camera and set it up and you know, put a smiley there or something, a face or something, and then you just look at it, and then that's your new webcam, and then you can use it to communicate via Teams or Zooms or other, you know, popular, or even WhatsApp or other whatever you use to communicate with colleagues at work, or if you work at home, or with your friends, and that gives you a very cheap but very high quality webcam option that has all the software enhancements built in to give a very nice image, regardless of whether it's very dark and you use candlelight, or if it's really sunny day. The software built in the iOS devices is so well developed that regardless of the scenario, it will give a good image of, and a good facial render and good colors. So as I'm telling you this, you start to see, yeah, indeed interesting. So even though this is a very old phone and it's pretty small display and maybe not really, you know, handy for standard use, there's still plenty of ways you can use it as an alternative thing, because it still has a lot of machine powering. By the way, if you use it as a webcam, of course you can plug it in the charger all the time, so it never runs out of battery. As a tiny and beautiful webcam. That is my review. Let me see if I have left something out. There is a 3.5mm jack, so if you use it, if you connect it to the cloud, you can have your music there. That is the normal lightning connection, which I prefer over USB-C, just for the simple reason that you can clean these contacts if they become dirty. After many years, it's very, very easy to clean the gold-plated tiny contacts, which is almost impossible to do on a USB-C. So both are very handy, USB-C and Lightning. You can both reverse them and they will always fit, of course. But I will give the edge to a connection that it's very easy to clean, so everything is always shiny and tidy. Also, I prefer headphones of whichever brand that have this shiny outside. And for many years ago, I stopped using, for hygiene reasons, I stopped using these types of earbuds, because they just trap in the air and just suffocate your ear, and after many hours of listening, it's just not hygienic. So even though these are pretty high quality, for hygiene reasons, I stopped using them, and these are pretty good. They're very cheap and they sound really nice, and they're very easy to clean, and they're always shiny and clean. And I would say the comfort and the ecosystem of your ear is more important than just pushing something way into your ear to get like a 2 hertz extra bass note. So it's very easy, and they have the volume button on these, and it's a standard charge. And I think I bought this for a very cheap €1 online overseas, and it fits perfectly. It's a very rubbery feel, very soft, and it doesn't slip. It provides a first protection. So my answer is yes. The iPhone 5 SE is still liable in modern times, especially if you use it for completely something else than what it was meant to.